Greetings, Sunday class chess players. This is a game between Maxwell and Noam. Hello to both of you, and thanks for providing us with this game, which is, I think, quite instructive. Let's begin. So we get a 4 knights. So this seems to be the official opening of the Sunday class. Maybe not quite, but it's pretty close. This has been coming up an awful lot. And here, White played bishop to c4, which again walks into the good old fork trick. So I would really recommend, if you want this position with the Joko piano and the knight on c3, start with bishop to c4. And then after knight to f6, you can play d3 and then play knight to c3 on the next turn. You can also play knight to g5, of course. But if you want that particular position, you can play d3 and then knight c3. Or if black plays the Joko, go d3 first and play knight c3. And there you go. So this avoids the fork trick and gets you where you want to be. All right, so after knight c3, knight f6, bishop c4, black correctly plays knight takes e4, knight e4, d5. And again, as I've suggested, if you do play this way with white, I don't think you should, but if you want to play it, it's not terrible if you play bishop to d3. So takes, and now white is kind of threatening to take on c6 and then on e5, so let's just develop and defend with bishop to d6, and the position is equal. The problem with this is that even though there's material equality after queen takes d5 and let's say knight c3 and maybe queen to a5, black has a little bit more space, but really importantly has the two bishops, and this bishop in particular is very, very good. Let me use the blue color there. So you don't want this with white. This is actually very, very good for black. But here, but here something kind of strange happened. So instead of queen takes on d5, black played bishop to e6. And I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it was a touch move mistake, or I don't know, maybe black was rushing. Here's the thing, and there are a few places in the game where this is going to be relevant. So let me move forward a little bit. So over here, white played knight to c5 instead of, for example, taking on e6 and then giving this fork. So white is going to end up with, I think, an extra exchange and two pawns most likely. But here too, just knight c5 and bishop takes c5. And there were some other places where this kind of thing happened as well. Let me show just one more. Well, I guess two more, right? So here, or no, sorry, yeah, one more. After queen to h3 check, black played queen to f5, but could have played queen takes h3, right? And then taking the knight on c7. So I think for both players, it was a bit of an issue, just not always seeing that one piece was attacking another piece. So it might feel a little bit basic, and at one level it is, but it's not a bad thing. This is where we all start off as chess players. So if it helps you after every move, after your opponent's move, I mean, to ask yourself explicitly, like, what's my opponent's threat? Is my opponent attacking any of my pieces? And are there any of my opponent's pieces that I can take? And of course, make sure that if you do take them, it'll be safe. So again, those are kind of building blocks, but they're critical. We all have to go through that stage where we kind of learn to see that certain pieces are attacking other pieces until it becomes automatic. So, you know, don't feel bad about it at all, but just realize that that's something that's critical, because if we don't see that our own pieces can be taken or that we can take our opponent's pieces, the games are not going to go as well for us as we would like. So that's a really important thing. So we've talked about two things so far. One is avoiding this fork trick. So the fork trick is good for black. And if you want to avoid it, start with bringing the bishop out first and then playing the pawn to d3. Then there's no fork trick worries at all. Then we discussed making sure that pieces are, or checking to see if your opponent's pieces are in fact safe after your opponent's move, and for that matter, making sure that your own moves are safe and that you're not putting your own pieces in take. So there's one other really interesting moment that I want to talk about in the game. And I don't know if it was a psychological thing or what happened exactly. So we got to this position here, and black played bishop to e5, which is a very good move, and white took on d4. It would have been better to play something like f4. I think this would have been the best move. There are some other good moves as well. But instead, white played bishop takes d4. Now, white is up a lot of material and threatening to win more, or at least trade off more pieces to reach an even more easily winning endgame. But there's a problem. Bishop takes h2 check, king h1 is the only move. Bishop to e5 check, king g1 is the only move. And now, if I'm black, I'm just going to repeat bishop h2, bishop e5, and it has to be e5 because otherwise white would take the rook. So you need to go there with your discovered check to keep the rook safe. King goes back, and I would make a draw. The reason why is that, well, if I'm black here, I'm down a lot of material. I'm down a rook, a knight, and a pawn. So I want to get out of this game with half a point. Definitely, I would prefer to win than to lose or to draw, but I would sure prefer to make a draw than to lose a game. And here, there's really very little chance if I'm black that I can save the game, being down so much material. So it would be better to make this repetition. Instead, black played king to e6, and then white just traded off and went on to give checkmate a little while later. So if you avoid this as black because you think, well, you know, if I make a draw, I can't win, that's true, but I would really, really strongly suggest that, you know, it's kind of a balancing act. So sometimes, yes, if you can push in a position that's kind of unclear, or maybe you're a little bit worse, then go for it. But if the choice is between making a draw or playing on in a position where your chances of losing are really, really high, take the draw. So, you know, better to get half a point than no point. So, again, it's not like we should play for draws from the start of the game. I like fighting spirit. I'm a player who likes to push for a win, but we also, you know, have to have some degree of caution when our disadvantage is really huge. Better to make the draw and get half a point. It's not that bad. All right, so again, a very interesting game. Lots of little instructive points. I had to jump over a bunch of them, but I hope that what I said was useful. Okay, look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.